When you were young, did television ever feel like a family event instead of background noise? Did a single theme song have the power to quiet an entire room? For me, it did. Every afternoon, I ran straight to a neighbor's house, the only one on the block with a black and white television. The room was cramped, the picture fuzzy, the antenna crackled like it was fighting back. But the moment the Beverly Hillbillies theme began, none of that mattered. We weren't thinking about ratings or reviews. We were laughing, together. But here's a question most of us never asked back then. What was really happening behind that laughter? Because behind one of America's most beloved sitcoms was a trail of lawsuits, rivalries, career-ending roles, and decisions that quietly reshaped television forever. Did you know an actor was actually struck so hard on set that filming had to stop? Or that a cast member publicly sabotaged a co-star's political career, on the radio? Or that the Beverly Hillbillies was cancelled while still ranking #1 nationwide? Let's reopen that door and uncover the secrets few people ever talked about. The lawsuit that shocked fans. To millions of viewers, Jethro was harmless, lovable, unforgettable. But to Max Baer Jr., that character eventually became a legal battlefield. During a drive through Nevada, Baer noticed something strange: restaurants using the name Jethro. He hadn't agreed to that. When lawyers reviewed the paperwork, they found something worse. His character's name had been commercially exploited without consent. And then came the bombshell. CBS had accidentally allowed early seasons to fall into the public domain. How does a top-rated show lose its legal protection? Simple: someone forgot to renew the copyright. The result? Cheap DVDs flooded the market, altered music tracks replaced originals, and Baer fought back, saying, "If my name follows me for life, I deserve control over it." Why a hit show was suddenly erased. Have you ever wondered why something you loved simply vanished, without explanation? Despite dominating the ratings, the Beverly Hillbillies was quietly cancelled during a closed-door CBS meeting. No shouting. No debate. Just one cold conclusion. We want younger, urban viewers. That single decision triggered what later became known as the Rural Purge, a sweeping removal of shows that didn't fit the new image. Green Acres. Petticoat Junction. Gone. Not because audiences left, but because executives did. The mansion that cost just $500 a day. That iconic mansion. It wasn't even in Beverly Hills. It sat quietly elsewhere, rented for just $500 a day, under one condition: don't reveal the address. That promise didn't last. Equipment trucks, crowds at the gates, curious neighbors. Soon fans arrived daily. Filming schedules had to be rushed, sometimes completed before crowds gathered. Luxury on screen. Chaos behind it. On-screen warmth, off-screen feuds. Buddy Ebsen and Nancy Culp looked inseparable on television. In real life, they couldn't stand each other. When Culp ran for Congress, Ebsen went on the radio and openly opposed her candidacy. Publicly. By name. In the Hollywood of the 1960s, some things were simply unthinkable. Studios were rigid. Hierarchies were sacred. Actors stayed in their lanes, and personal conflicts were quietly buried behind forced smiles and carefully staged publicity photos. You didn't question authority. You didn't blur boundaries. And you certainly didn't let tension spill onto the set. But sometimes, no matter how polished the illusion, the cracks begin to show. From one unspoken moment, one disagreement that never found its way to resolution, a relationship fractured, and it never truly healed. The air on set changed. Conversations shortened. Laughter became selective. And even when cameras rolled, everyone could feel it. Because when something breaks behind the scenes, it has a way of echoing through everything. The fastest rise to #1. Here's something few people today truly realize. The Beverly Hillbillies didn't just become popular, it exploded. It reached #1 faster than any television show before it. No slow burn. No gradual climb. It arrived, and suddenly, it was everywhere. And what makes that rise even more remarkable is when it happened. America was grieving. President John F. Kennedy had been assassinated. The country felt stunned, hollowed out, unsure how to move forward. News broadcasts were heavy. Conversations were somber. The future felt uncertain. Many industry experts believed comedy was finished, At least for a while. Who would laugh during a national wound like that? But they were wrong. Because audiences didn't want complexity. They didn't want moral puzzles or intellectual challenges. They wanted comfort. They wanted something familiar. Something gentle. Something that didn't ask anything from them except to sit down, breathe, and smile for half an hour. The Clampetts arrived at exactly the right moment. Their simple values, their wide-eyed innocence, and their refusal to change who they were, even when surrounded by wealth, felt like a warm blanket over a shaken nation. Sometimes, laughter isn't an escape. Sometimes, it's survival. Yes, Granny really hit Jethro. Television back then wasn't as careful as it is now. No stunt doubles hiding in the background. No soft camera tricks. No foam props disguised as reality. When Granny swung at Jethro, it was real. Irene Ryan didn't fake it. She didn't pull her punches. And Max Baer Jr. didn't want her to. "Hit me for real," he told her. So she did. The smack you hear, that's real flesh meeting flesh. The flinch, genuine. The startled laughter that followed, completely unplanned. That rawness, those unscripted reactions, became part of the show's heartbeat. It wasn't cruelty. It was trust. Two actors understanding that truth, even when it stings a little, reads better than perfection. And in those moments, audiences felt something honest, even if they didn't know why. That honesty is part of why the show still feels alive today. Sharon Tate. Seen, but never noticed. Here's a detail that feels almost unreal in hindsight. Sharon Tate appeared on the Beverly Hillbillies 15 times. And most viewers never noticed her. She didn't look like the Sharon Tate the world would later remember. No glamorous hair. No striking makeup. No spotlight begging for attention. She wore a simple brown wig. Plain clothes. Barely any makeup. She arrived quietly, did her work professionally, smiled kindly, and left. Crew members later described her as gentle, polite, almost invisible. Years later, after the tragedy that shocked the world, people began flipping through old production notes and reruns. And suddenly, there she was. Again. And again. And again. A presence that had passed through history without noise. Like a whisper that only becomes audible once it's gone. The role that became a cage. For Max Baer Jr., Jethro Clampett was both a blessing and a sentence. The role made him famous almost overnight. He became recognizable everywhere. Children laughed when they saw him. Adults quoted his lines. But fame has a darker side. Casting directors couldn't unsee Jethro. Auditions ended quickly. Serious roles vanished before they began. He wasn't considered. He was categorized. So Baer adapted. When acting doors closed, he built new ones. He wrote. He directed. He produced. He turned rejection into reinvention. Sometimes fame opens every door. Sometimes it locks you into one room and throws away the key. And survival means learning how to build your own exits. Hidden realities behind familiar faces. Behind the cheerful facade, real life continued, quietly, relentlessly. Raymond Bailey, the refined and perfectly composed Mr. Drysdale, began struggling with Alzheimer's in later seasons. Lines slipped away. Marks were missed. Moments of confusion crept in. But his dignity never left him. Crew members adjusted. Scripts softened. Scenes adapted. Because respect mattered more than perfection. Buddy Ebsen, America's lovable Jed Clampett, had already cheated death long before oil ever bubbled from the ground. While filming The Wizard of Oz, he nearly died from toxic aluminum powder used in the Tin Man makeup. His lungs were damaged. His future uncertain. Yet there he stood years later, steady, warm, and grounding an entire show with quiet strength. Donna Douglas beat over 500 actresses for the role of Ellie Mae. Not because she tried the hardest. Not because she acted the most. But because she was real. No pretension. No performance. Just sincerity. And that authenticity became unforgettable. The joke beneath the laughter. On paper, the Clampetts were worth nearly $1 billion in today's money. Yet they never changed. They didn't chase status. They didn't abandon kindness. They didn't forget who they were. That contrast, between wealth and humility, was the joke. And maybe the lesson. Why this still matters. When we look back at the Beverly Hillbillies, we're not just remembering a television show. We're remembering shared dinners. Crowded couches. Families in the same room, watching the same story unfold. No phones. No distractions. Just laughter filling the space between people. So here's the real question. Was television better when it was simpler? Or were we? If you watched this show back in the black and white days, or if any of these stories surprised you, share your memories in the comments. I'd truly love to read them. And if you value stories that go deeper than nostalgia, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for the next chapter. Because some memories deserve to be revisited. Slowly.